Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the DuvalDive. I'm Kyle Nash, a student of the game.
And I'm Travis Holmes with BigCatCountry.com.
And you're listening to this thing on the Believe podcast networks. Divers and devout alike, thanks for jumping in. And of course, a tribute to those who paid the ultimate price for their service today, it being Memorial Day. We appreciate you all jumping in to hang out with us, talk a little bit of Jacksonville Jaguar football, and hopefully you're doing on a day off. And if you're not, well, then we're getting rid of that, what is that, FOMO vibe that you might be feeling because you're here talking ball with us. But with all that in mind, the first thing we got to do is get one thing out of the way. It's another BTJ flipping conversation. I get it. I'm going to get this. I'm going to crash out a little bit because this is ridiculous. We're still doing this. It is 2026 in these streets, and we're still talking about BTJ. Okay, the fact that it's 2026 doesn't matter. But to keep to the mission here that we have at the DuvalDive, we want to talk with you and not at you about it. And not to mention, Travis brought some intelligence out there as well on BigCatCountry.com, broaching the topic in particular of Brian Thomas Jr. and AJ Brown. And here's the thing. I don't know if it's you that came up with this, Travis, but I love this concept that we're calling it Groundhog Day, because this beast keeps popping up and finding its shadow, man. I love that particular piece. But yeah, BTJ, AJ Brown, I guess we start here for now, my man.
And we talked about it on Wednesday's pod a little bit with Jen Jazz Jordan DeLugo. He gave us his quick thoughts on the subject. And if you guys have missed it on the Generation Jaguar channel, he also gave his quick thoughts on overall on there. I always want to prop that man up, man. Great conversation. Absolutely. Always a great time every time we have him on. The most recent insider to kind of touch on the rumor of Jacksonville trading BTJ this offseason was the often inaccurate Jason Lockenfora, who's most famously known in Jacksonville for predicting that the Jaguars would be moving to London when the Everbank Stadium contract renewal was up. You had James Palmer with Bleacher Report. He was asked about it on the Up and Adam show, where he linked Jacksonville to the AJ Brown trade, stating that he both heard that Jacksonville was interested in trading, or at least interested in him being available as far as that's concerned in conversations behind closed doors. But then he also said he heard on the side that he wasn't available. So who knows where that really lands. And finally, again, we're just talking the past like 10 days. Then Adam Schefter touched on it on his podcast, stating that he expects AJ Brown to be traded after June 1st, though he had no specific word on whether or not Jacksonville was interested. And he kind of doesn't know where that's coming from as far as that's concerned. So in my opinion, it's the same trade rumor that's just cycling throughout this offseason, and it's just repackaged for consumption. Groundhog Day. That's kind of, that's where I come from in that.
Exactly.
Yeah. And we discussed it on Wednesday that most signs kind of point to the fact that Brown is more likely than not going to be a New England Patriot around June 2nd. But we still thought this was a good discussion because there's a large discussion that's just missing in this fan base. From my perspective, I can only speak from my perspective. So a good portion of this conversation today is going to be related to Brian Thomas Jr., like who he is, who he's not, the myths surrounding him, and there are a few, and why this trade rumor isn't so wild, but also on the other side of the coin, why it's absolutely wild to be happening. Like there's multiple conversations that's kind of should be had here, and I think most people right now are only talking about like this much of it. So, hey man, let's use these BTJ AJ Brown rumors to kind of have a launching point to have that overdue Brian Thomas Jr. offseason conversation.
100%. And I'm going to go to the comments just because to see what we're getting. Robert was in here before the show started. So sick of rumors. No way they know the potential of BTJ. PJ Brown, in the comments. We're not trading BTJ. I'm sure you've placed a bet on that to increase your winnings, PJ, for sure. Happy Memorial to you today as well. Robert Lambertson, he says getting real old on BTJ talk. Robbie Santos, the trade chatter needs to stop. It feels like nothing more than dead seas and water. In Lockhand Forest case, especially, I think you're correct. But this is the piece that we're going to try to do. The Jaggernaut. Yes, the Jaggernaut. I like that. Thanks for all the great coverage, guys. Appreciate it. And that's what we're going to try to do. We're going to get away from the trade silliness and kind of address Brian Thomas Jr. as a topic. Because whether you think he's leaving the franchise or not, I think, Travis, where we was something we're going to have to talk about because his history is just tough to really dissect. Robert in the comments,
Right.
Rather trade for Max Crosby, AJ Brown. I mean,
so wait, so there is a price. That's all I got from that last comment.
Ted DiBiase. Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
Everybody's got a price. There you go.
So I will be willing to trade him, just not for that price. I understand. All right. Now, before I wrote the article on BCC, Big Cat Country, I legitimately only saw the media posts talking about the BTJ's trade or why a trade for AJ Brown couldn't happen and wouldn't happen. And I think there are a lot of good reasons why it won't happen, to be clear. Like
it will beat those up too. Also,
right. But folks aren't discussing the reasons why it could. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not, even if I don't agree with it, and to be clear, I don't. I want to make sure we have the conversation. We don't. I want to make sure we have the conversation. Like, if we're an objective podcast that we claim to be, then it's our job to lay out the full arguments, even if it were to shock us if it happens. So these are all the arguments for trading away BTJ and all the arguments for trading for Brown. So let's get into it. We good?
That's right.
Good. All right. So in my perspective, argument number one for trading away BTJ is, if you're making that trade for somebody like AJ Brown, you obviously you get a true vertical threat wide receiver that wins one-on-one matchups with Trevor Lawrence. Like that's I said it in my Big Cat Country articles. That's like objectively probably going to be the best quarterback Trevor Lawrence has ever had, matched with AJ Brown. So the best quarterback AJ Brown has ever had, matching Trevor Lawrence with the best wide receiver that he's likely ever had in his career.
That's possible.
That's Jacksonville's version of the Stephon Diggs addition back in 2020 for the Buffalo Bills. You know what I mean? Like, it would make Jacksonville's offense a juggernaut that guarantees 2 high safeties and opens up the run game normally. That's my perspective going into it. I saw the AJ Brown stats on the socials. I wanted to put it out there at least. Well, some fans argue that this trade would be Jacksonville sort of chasing his name over his game. I mean, you've seen like what he's kind of put out there. Like, his quote unquote down season in 2025 was 78 catches on 121 targets for 1,003 yards and 7 touchdowns in 15 games played. Bruh,
if you're mailing in 1,000-yard season, you would count. Okay.
No. In 15 games played. So let me summarize this for the audio listeners. Yeah. For the audio listeners, that is an 1,136-yard, 8-touchdown down season with 17 games played. And that's playing with a struggling Philadelphia Eagles offense last year that was facing a lot of 2 high safety looks, and they struggled to run them out of it, running into favorable closed middle of the field looks. Like, so that sounds similar to what Jacksonville went through in some spurts last season. But I wanted to just start the conversation there because we are talking about an all-pro talent at wide receiver. On the other side, you have a Brian Thomas Jr., who is probably at least going to be considered a Pro Bowl type of talent, with questions on what that's going to become in this offense. So, like, that's where I'm starting an argument. One is, hey, man, you're talking AJ Brown. Now, whether he's here or he's where he used to be, that's a hard thing to say no to, right?
And moreover, I like that you brought up it could be the best Trevor Lawrence could be the best quarterback for Brown as well, right? What does Trevor have a history of doing, Travis, that we don't talk enough? I mean, we do on this show, and I'm sure you've mentioned it some on Big Cat Country, but what we don't talk enough about in general is how many times Trevor Lawrence has given people career seasons getting the football from him. Mm-hmm. And I think this is an opportunity for AJ Brown to do that, right? Not that Jalen Hurts is a bad quarterback, but he's certainly not known for explosive plays necessarily. Maybe Trevor's not either, but every now and again, he'll hit you with a big one that'll get things going, right?
Right. I had this argument on the Big Cat Country article comments, just because I actually do read the comments even there. And it was a big thing is I thought that Jalen Hurts is a better quarterback as far as running the ball and the tush push and those kinds of things. I thought he was better generally at the deep balls. Like, I'm talking hero balls, 30+ yards down the field, which leans well to AJ Brown's, skill set. I think Trevor Lawrence is actually really good at that. I just think he doesn't have the receivers who have also been equally good at that.
That's why I said explosive plays and not long throws. That was very intentionally worded. I'm glad you pointed it out. Right.
So from that perspective, I think for a passing game, which is wide receiver cares most about, that will probably be the matchup made in heaven. Again, do I think it's going to happen? No. Do I think there's an argument for it to be made? Yeah, that's absolutely an argument. We're talking about an all-pro receiver with a Pro Bowl quarterback who could potentially have all-pro like ceiling as far as Trevor Lawrence is concerned. That's all.
And this is a good comment. He comes crashing through the wall on this one. Yes, the Jaggernaut. I'm going to keep doing that. I'm just saying. If we get AJ, do you think he would disrupt the locker room, or will Cohen's culture swallow him and have him thinking we instead of me, Travis?
Can I get to that question? Can we pocket that question for when we get to the arguments against? The arguments against. Again, we got multiple arguments for, and I want to get through the arguments for. Put a star by that question so we can pull it back up later, and I promise I will answer that one because it's going to come up in the arguments
later. That works. I can work with
that. No. So I want to get through them because I know everybody's going to have their responses, and it makes total sense. But argument 2. Someone said it, like the Jaguars wide receiver court. Robert, there we go. Robert said it. Robert, was it Ackers? I'm sorry if I got the last name wrong, bro. My bad.
Robert,
I'm gonna call myself dyslexic. I'm gonna call myself dyslexic. That's my get out of jail free card. Cool.
Well, that's why, I always call him Robert. Is I never knew if @Zert meant something else. If you want to point out in the comments, Robert, go for it. But yeah, anyway,
he says our wide receiver core is deep, and that is actually a fair argument. Like the state of the Jaguars wide receiver core, both the proven talent and the top of the end room in the depth additions kind of make this a rough conversation. Like, what are you talking about, Travis? How do you like if you have this deep of wide receiver core, you should be good, right? And you do. You have Travis Hunter, who we haven't talked much about at all because of the whole he's going to play mostly cornerback thing, which is not a thing. He's most likely to have a second-year breakout because he's going to be playing cornerback and wide receiver. Again, that's per Fox NFL, kind of putting that out there. You have one of the top man-beating wide receiver prospects who can easily run those clear outs and more. And that kind of makes this a conversation a little bit cloudy, right? Because they could potentially, theoretically, trade Brian Thomas Jr. and possibly not even feel it while adding a top pick or a top player like an A.J. Brown to build around, especially considering all those wide receivers they brought in. Like we talked about it with Emory Hunt. We talked about it with J.P. Acosta, both after the draft. Like they drafted 2 receivers. They brought in 3 undrafted free agents. They have Parker Washington. They got multiple of those guys in the Jacoby Myers and Parker Washington molds, for that matter. You got options across the board that are able to run the offense in the way that Liam Cohen simply wants to run it. Guys who won't drop balls, guys who run to the middle of the field, guys who can make those contested catches. And you have Brian Thomas Jr., who can do, for the most part, right now, as we've seen on tape, really good doing that one thing, the clear outs and the ISO routes down the sideline. That limits your offense. That limits what you can do because you want to be versatile as far as your offensive scheme, and he's the one that's limiting it. That's a problem. I'm not going to pretend that that's not the case.
And we've talked about that some here on the show in the past, but it's the way you framed that hit different, and I'll leave it at that. But okay,
it's fine. They got options all over the place. Like, so you can't just fully dismiss the notion that he could be traded. Like, however, it's unlikely. It's unlikely it's going to happen. It's just not impossible as most kind of seem to feel like that it is. And that's kind of the only reason I always want to have these conversations, because it doesn't feel impossible. It just feels like it probably ain't happening because they like him. They seem to like his vibe. They have him under team control, the money, and all the other reasons that we're going to get into in a second. But the big part of it is the on-field production. The on-field product from Thomas in 2025, we cannot pretend we didn't just see what we saw. I'm going to be keeping a buck. I'm always going to keep it real with y'all. We can't pretend that we didn't just see a wide receiver who showed on tape and pure evidence of an uneasiness, we'll call it, when running routes across the formation and towards the teeth of the defense.
Right. And whether that was always there or not, or if it's something that's been lately acquired for whatever reason, it's still there on tape this past year. No, I hear that.
Right. So you don't have to be a former NFL player or a coach to identify that that's a huge issue in the NFL.
Or even a Jaguar fan. Well, I am an honorary, I was about to say, or even a Jaguar fan, but I am an honorary Duval. So that's that. I can't say that anymore.
Right. So he looked like a lot better. He looked a lot better at the end of the season when they asked him to do significantly less of the option routes and more straight go routes, comebacks and things of that nature. But that's obviously not what they prefer this offense to be. Like, I just think that that came out of necessity from my perspective, like due to the personnel and due to the personnel limitations, but that's not what they needed to be. And hopefully they're banking on him developing that this offseason, of developing more of that so they can then do more with them, because otherwise you're kind of stuck. You're just going to be stuck trying to put a square hole in a round peg, or a round peg into a square hole. Or I said it backwards, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
I see you eyeing a comment.
You got some rocking comments coming that I'm putting stars on, because I'm sure you're going to address some of these as you keep going. So let's get through this piece, because I want divers, hang in there on this one. I'm not skipping you. You're asking good stuff. I just know Travis is about to get to it.
All right. Well, let's get to the final reason. The final reason to make the trade, and it's probably the most important one from my perspective. Look at the general manager and the head coach. And I'm not saying like look at they don't like him or something like that. No. Just look at their philosophy. Look at who they are. Like Jacksonville has a general manager that's from an aggressive Rams franchise that always looks to prioritize proven established talent over lottery pick draft selections. Like that's the franchise who always trades away their first round pick for a higher priced veteran, because they're proven Pro Bowl type of game changers. Like most recently, the Rams traded away their first for Trent McDuffie. And we agree, I would hope, that that's who these guys are, Liam Cohen and James Gladstone, right? Like, I think we're on the same page there.
Sure.
Then on the other side, you do have a general manager in Philadelphia who's always looking to make a trade paired with the GM in Jacksonville, who's legitimately in on every trade that's worth talking about.
Always wheeling and dealing. Both guys, for that matter. This isn't just about T. Snow. It's like Roseman always be out there. No, for sure.
Yeah, so even the trade that they don't pull the trigger on, you hear Jacksonville's in the mix. Jacksonville's in the conversations. Jacksonville's they're figuring it out, putting the toe in the water. Well, with them having nearly a full season to evaluate Brian Thomas Jr. in-house, so they know him well.
Sorry to interrupt you, Travis. You said the word trade, so Stones is calling us.
That's it. That man is busy, and I love it. You love to have a general manager who's busy, who's in it. But they obviously know Brian Thomas well, both strengths and weaknesses, whatever that's going to be, and they obviously seem to trust that he's going to develop. But I'm just wondering, how is this conversation any different than trading for a top Pro Bowl talent at wide receiver, like doing the draft? Like, let's say they were on the clock in the first round, and you got one guy, AJ Brown, who's a proven talent at downfield contested catches, sideline outs, ISO routes, big bodies like routes, and inside moves. And on the other side, you got Brian Thomas Jr., who clearly showed flashes early in his career, but also clearly showed some serious questions heading into the season.
Yeah.
Like AJ is easily the more sure thing to get a top all-pro player today, like right now, while Jacksonville is actually in a Super Bowl window. And that's the one piece that I don't see that's arguable from the fan base. We can talk about who Brian Thomas Jr. might be, but we can talk about who AJ Brown is. And that's a different conversation.
Well, or at least was, right? We got to be fair and talk about Father Time's role in this.
I mean, I didn't think he had a drop off last year. I just think he just wasn't throwing the ball enough. That's where I'm standing.
I tend to agree with you, but the numbers are starting to stack up, and you got to think about what kind of deal he's going to want.
I mean, that's fair too. The money is that's another conversation. The money. But people always say, like, I was going back to this whole Rams thing, and folks in Jacksonville, they hate when I bring it up all the time. They do.
You can't blame us because Bucky did it too last week. I don't want to hear.
Didn't create this, right? We didn't create this. They came from the Rams. They roll like the Rams. You got to look for the Rams when you look for like traits and trends and what could potentially happen. And like the Rams
we got to throw a little defense to the devout and the divers, because I have to confess the sin as well. I'm even bringing up the Rams Liam Cohen relation on Locked On UCF because I'm talking about Scott Frost, who is with the Rams too. So I'm drinking that Kool-Aid too. I can't just be throwing everybody else on.
Wait, I didn't know Scott Frost was with the Rams. I'm a UCF guy and I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was a Rams a Rams assistant was his last coaching gig. Yeah.
How did I miss that? Jeez.
It was really widely announced. I only found out about it because I'm close to it.
That's dope. That's awesome.
But this is also why that spring camp has competition, just like a Jacksonville Jaguar camp would. It's crazy how similar they are. But please continue.
Well, no, the only reason I make that Rams comparison, even in this conversation with AJ Brown, and they're like, what the hell the AJ Brown and the Rams got to do anything with the Rams are also a team that's set at wide receiver. They got Puka Nacua, They got Devontae Adams at wide receiver, but even they were also rumored to be in the AJ Brown talks. Like that was a different thing. So again, if you're saying like, well, the wide receiver room is set, so well, is the wide receiver room set for the Rams because they sure as hell was in it?
And remember, Luka has his off-season, off-the-field stuff he's dealing with right now there too. So them hunting for an insurance policy is Rams as heck. I'm with it.
It made sense. And now, Adam Schefter on Friday, he kind of said that they were no longer in the mix. But my overall point is like, if you're looking at the overarching philosophy in Jacksonville, who's also set at wide receiver, from my perspective, being set don't never mean you set. That's all I'm ever going to get to. Being set doesn't mean you're absolutely where you need to be. We all thought the Jaguars were set at cornerback, at slot cornerback heading into 2025 with Jarian Jones, right? They obviously thought differently, and they brought in a more proven talent in Jordan Lewis. Now, I'll acknowledge they didn't get rid of Jarian in that process. They also didn't have a full season with him to see him play in their system either, as they have with Brian Thomas Jr. So that does make this conversation a little bit different, right?
Yeah, I think all of that is cool stuff to point out for sure. So, and I know that you have your reasons against, but I didn't know if you wanted.
If you got any of these that you want to get into, let's just get into them. And I hate making these guys wait because I got arguments for days, bro.
These are great. These are great questions we're bringing in. One thing I wanted to get off the ground. Robert Lamison brings it in, and actually both Roberts, Adson and Lamison address it in the comments. Do you think BTJ had a hard time with Liam's playbook? I don't think that's the right question. Because if we're being honest, Travis, everybody on the offensive field had issues with it. How many times? You divers, be honest. What's happened more often? BTJ trade rumors in the offseason, or Kyle griping about flags on the O-line during the season?
Don't put on the O-line. Don't put on just the O-line. The O-line.
Sure. I'm talking about my gripes were there mostly, but you I got you. Spreading the
O-line.
I'm just trying
O-line, tight ends, wide receivers, all of them. Just alignment and assignment.
Lined up as tight ends and unbalanced lines and still getting flags when all they doing is hitting the DB. But okay, cool. See, there you go. You got me going again, Travis. But the punchline is everybody did. And I think, and there's a comment related to it. I think that places it well here with Mr. Kokomo Pro. That sounds like an island I should travel to. I believe BTJ will adjust well in the system this season. AJ Brown had some drops last season as well that affected some big games. Hey, how about mentioning BTJ's drops? That's the conversation, right?
I hate having one-sided arguments. Like, because it's like, come on, man. We can talk about drops and then we're actively having a guy who was like at one point near the top of the league in drops. Like, that's a rough counter.
Devout. And this isn't just the divers. I said devout. Y'all remember, if we were having this conversation into week 4, y'all would have been fine with BTJ leaving. Oh, he's soft. Oh, he can't catch the ball. You all were miffed, and rightly so. I'm not saying you listen. Y'all are fans. Be fanatical. That's the job. But let's not pretend y'all didn't have your concerns during the season about BTJ's drops. I'm the one over here saying he might get through it. Then the 49ers game happened. I say he's back. And for the most part, he was. He just started having a bunch of injuries. So I'm not saying it was perfect, but he got a lot.
We argued about whether or not he was back versus whether or not, like what it was versus what it ain't. And I think we still might have a small disagreement on what it is, but I'll leave that to you.
Yeah, just specifically is catching the ball, getting his confidence back, making contested catches, all of that. I think where you and I start to, what is word? I think what you started to point out to me was his route tree was smaller than I thought, because I got fooled by year one. I know we're going to talk about that more there too. So there's all of that. Are we ready to address the culture question?
The culture question will come up in argument 2.
That's what again. I thought. So let me bring up Robbie's comment. How much can we chalk up to BTJ's dip in production to maturity and development as opposed to incomplete disposable pieces of team? I think that's
That's and that might be one of the questions, if not the question of the pod, because I don't play psychologist. I don't play shrink. I don't know. And that's a great, and I'm okay saying, hey, I simply don't know, because that's outside of my area of expertise. And I don't know him in that way personally.
And nor did
you know what I mean?
stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night either. So you can't even go without. No, I'm kidding. But that's what I think the biggest thing is, right? And that's what I alluded to. Neither of us are mental health professionals by any stretch. We're just parents.
Right.
But at days in, the opportunity for that growth and development to continue, for him to blow back up, is on the table, and he can't be ruled out, especially if
absolutely.
Yeah, if Cohen's used to what he wants to do with them, and his head's right to catch the damn football more.
And I think that's going to be less of a concern if they continue using them in the routes that they're using them in, which is honestly the deeper routes down the field, which historically from all wide receivers have a smaller drop rate, just because the longer the ball's in the air, the more time I have to look at it and watch it into my hands, the less I'm going to have drops. The drops normally come within your 5 yards, 10 yards from the line of scrimmage, because these are quick balls that's coming on you hot. You're trying to get them right. So for the most part, he's not going to have more drops. His depth of target is going to be deeper. The drops are going to come when it's shorter, generally, and that's for most wide receivers, not just BTJ. But yeah, there are a lot of arguments. Equally, there were a lot of arguments for the move, but there are equally a lot of arguments against it.
Just because we haven't had a for the move comment in here. He and 3 inches from the ground, he and Diami were actually pulling their hands back a bit when a hit was coming. I want him gone. AJ Brown would make our offense a monster. I've never heard it put quite so blunt. I'm not here to say anything of it's wrong either, but that's a definitive take of somebody who
had their opinions of it when it happened. And like, we can go back to the tape, and I think most people said it outright. If you actively were to ask them in the games when it was happening, people were cussing. It became a thing for a few days, but if you win the game, no one talks about it as long. But no, it was a thing for about a good week and a half of, ooh, you can't do that. This is the NFL. This is the big boy league of men among men. You can't do that. And I think we all know that was the case. So that's a fair comment. And honestly, we can change the theory. We can change the thought process now because the Jaguars had a 13-win season, but that don't change what's on that tape. Like, let's be honest and clear about that. But the number one argument against the move is money. We talked about it earlier. Someone asked about I believe it was the cap or the basically the financial situation with the Jaguars, and point blank, they're unlikely to pay for a wide receiver one when they got Parker Washington up next to be paid. They just paid Myers last year, and they got BTJ under 3 years of team control on a rookie contract. Also, AJ Brown is 29 years old this summer, and BTJ is 23. Brown's current contract. Go ahead.
And you expect me to believe that Liam Cohen would pass up on the comp pick opportunity with BTJ? Come on now.
I mean, that's 3 years from now. That's a different thing.
That's the joke, Travis.
I mean, but Brown's current contract runs through his age 32 season. So like, that's a big thing because the money does matter. But if you do believe that the Jaguars were in on any of the trades that they were talking about doing, or any of the free agent deals that they were talking about doing, but that didn't go through, then you have to believe that they got the options to make the money appear if they want to via restructures of certain players and things of that nature. They have more cap space than what we showed them having basically right now. So they do have the money option. Money is not necessarily the thing, but it would mean that you possibly wouldn't be extending someone like a Parker Washington or something else. That's the biggest piece of that.
Which is kind of scary when you think about it. I mean, it would be a tough decision. Anyways, I'm heading down the line.
They're all tough decisions.
Yeah,
they're all tough decisions. Either way, this is a big money conversation. Sure.
At that position, absolutely. Yeah.
Argument 2. Someone asked about the locker room. And I said we're going to pocket that and come back to it.
It's time.
So Jaggernaut says, if we get AJ, do you think it would disrupt the locker room, or will Cohen's coach swallow him and have him thinking we instead of me? Which you could make the exact argument for the Philadelphia Eagles roster and locker room when he originally was brought in, that they had a very good together, strong locker room.
No, I'm pushing back on that.
Talk to me.
Yeah, because under Sirianni,
Sure.
after the Super Bowl was won, and then they missed the playoffs, and then they got back, right? When it got exposed, two things happened. A, we realized Sirianni was dependent on his coordinators. And two,
Sure.
I feel like there's been a madhouse on the sidelines of that team going on for some now, or at least that's the national picture, right?
Well, is that a problem with AJ Brown being a locker room issue, or is that a problem with the coach and AJ Brown just calling out what's very obvious right now with their lack of leadership is a problem?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm pointing out. That's why I think,
okay.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, you thought I was pushing back on me saying AJ Brown's fault. No, I'm not. That's the thing. We know the Eagles sideline has been filled with volatility for some time, right? The whole situation with Saquon being involved. Jalen Hurts is a young leader being questioned on the regulars in and out of the organization. Right. Sirianni needing to have a damn guy that basically serves as his personal security guard on the sidelines and stuff. Him getting into that's a circus. And the only thing holding it together has been victory or near victory in some cases, right? If they lose another season, the Eagles might fall apart, and maybe, just maybe, AJ Brown is seeing the writing on the wall.
That's absolutely factual. That's a great landing point, bro. I'm gonna say this argument too for the locker room impacts. I initially had this written down as a negative, and you saw my Big Cat Country article. You'll see I didn't really give an opinion. I just wrote out these are the things that should be considered. I'll give you an opinion now. So I don't know where this lands, because on the negative side, we've already seen how AJ Brown acts when things aren't going well, especially last year in Philadelphia. But from a locker room perspective, like, I don't know if you're going to add that guy to your locker room and then have to force feed them targets and eat up more cap space while also wondering, is the locker room going to be all right? But on the other hand, if you were the team and the leadership group and the locker room who claims to have the structure and all the right voices in the room to build this thing in the right way, then shouldn't your locker room be in a spot in year 2 where they can take on a quote unquote less than perfect personality? Like, if the talent is at a high enough level, then you accept any blemishes that come along with that on the personality side, because you need to do anything for the W. And as Exhibit A, Your Honor, I would like to enter into evidence this post-game AJ Brown, season-ending interview after they lost against the San Francisco 49ers.
It's not just solely about my situation. I mean, guys, like, obviously I want to win too, and I think if we're really focusing on winning and doing our job, like, we can't just keep slapping the Band-Aid over defense doing their job and getting us out of trouble. Like, at what point are we going to pick up our slack as an offense that we're so great, and that's what I'm getting at. It's not about we're not winning or I don't care about winning. All I care about is stat. No, it's been week after week sometimes we're not contributing. We're not doing our job on offense. So you can't just keep slapping the Band-Aid over that and you expect to win late in the year. You think you're going to go to it at the end of the year. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And last year, what it was, thank you for the ring, but it's a new season. They adapted. We have to adapt, and we have to continue to, get better and try to find new ways. So that's...
Sounds like a winner, bro. I'm just going to call a spade.
Yeah. That is pure poetry. I don't think it's particularly close.
I don't think that's something that we argue with. Go ahead.
Yeah, and let me add this, because you mentioned the term force feeding him. Let's be clear, okay? Devonta Smith, him on the other side, Saquon Barkley in the backfield is another great pass catcher, and Goddard as their tight end. That is a scenario where you have to force feed to keep mouths happy, because there's talent on talent everywhere with guys that are similar. I don't feel like the Jags are constructed like that. If AJ Brown is as good as he wants us to believe, there's no force feeding. He gets his beep open down the field and earns the ball at a high clip.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that anyway. It's like, and can I just make this
ball, but go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. Yeah, I just want to be clear. Like, I want to make this point, and this isn't even about AJ Brown specifically, but it's about like all the players who kind of sort of roll like that, that get called a quote unquote locker room cancers. Like, tell me that didn't sound like Jalen Ramsey when he was here in Jacksonville. Like,
Well,
I gotta get this part off. I gotta get this part off my chest.
hold on. You see this. I see where you're going, and I'm not saying you're wrong, but this ain't that, dog. Come on.
No, I don't know, bro. Like, we had an all-pro talent player expressing similar concerns about the leadership or the lack thereof, or the organization or the lack thereof, and a large majority of this Duval devout fan base sided with the losing side of that equation. I want to be clear in saying that. Like, we can all objectively say now that the general manager and the leadership group failed in a lot of ways, while the player, Jalen Ramsey, at a minimum, will likely be on Hall of Fame ballots one day. Like, whether or not he gets in is a whole nother conversation, but he gonna be on them ballots. Like, and whether or not it's AJ Brown or somebody else in the future, Jacksonville will get another guy like this in a locker room, like who's publicly vocal in that way. And I do hope the fans and the media are better the next go round and accepting that sort of uber competitor who calls out mediocrity when it's necessary. So, like, I agree with you, your earlier point when you're talking about the issues with the leadership and the issues with the organization and the ability to adapt as far as offensive coordinator and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
That's where I think AJ Brown is just like, nah, man, this ain't good enough. But that's, if fans have actively known how crazy Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan were in the moment in these years, and not like later on documentaries and 30 for 30s and all of this stuff, they would have called them dudes like locker room problems. Let's be honest about this.
Well, okay. So everything you're saying is accurate, but let's consider some context in all the situations. A,
All right.
Jordan and Kobe were clearly the front men for those bands. Okay.
Sure. And quarterbacks
AJ
generally
Brown.
have to be it for NFL.
Exactly. And AJ Brown's a receiver. Fair or not to my skill player brethren. I hate that slur, by the way, against me and the fat guys. Okay.
Yep.
But you ain't it. You ain't the feature. If you're the feature, you're either Travis Hunter because you're good at it, you're the best at more than one position and you're a unicorn, or something's wrong with your team. Just ask Justin Jefferson. Anyways, so with all that to say this, my friend, and don't forget Larry Bird. Sure. Again, clearly, Larry Bird being the front man for that franchise is a whole other conversation. Yeah, that's the other piece. But another thing I want to point out, that speech that AJ Brown's giving, he's either being very skilled in his expression and going full Game of Thrones on it, or he's talking to himself and his teammates on that side of the ball. I don't hear him going after leadership per se. But that man says what happened last year happened, but we got to be able to adapt and we got to be able to do something different to succeed this year. That to me sounds like scheme. That to me, because again, they couldn't run teams. I watched a lot of Eagles games last year. They could not run teams out of that too high safety shell, and they were very unsuccessful running into too high safety looks. And because of that, AJ Brown could not get the ball, and he was pissed at that the entire season. Who knew Jason Kelsey was that big a deal, y'all? Just saying. But with all the above, to say this, like those elements, and it could very well be coaching as well. I'm not saying that's impossible, but the way I interpreted it. Although again, your adaptability comment, that's the most correct in my opinion, is that he is challenging the coaching and the play calling and coordinators and stuff. I'm with that, but I heard a lot of stuff there too, where guys that are in it aren't, are happy with the mediocrity, such as you put.
They're just fine with it. Yeah, they're just fine.
He's wondering, why am I the only voice that's saying we need to be better?
It just sounded to me exactly like it sounded for the Jaguars in 2023, when a lot of the players themselves would say, "Yeah, we got to go to London. We got to figure out how to make this thing work right. We got to figure out how to get it right. It just clicked last year, right? And we don't know why it just didn't click in 2023. We don't know what happened. Blah blah blah." They kept saying that. They publicly. Christian Kirk said it. The coaches were talking about this was a thing in Jacksonville. So I can hear the same thing just coming from the Philadelphia Eagles. And that's the overall kind of where I'm landing on that. So I'm just like, man, if these guys are quote unquote considered locker room problems because they are not okay with winning, that's why I compared the Jalen Ramsey situation, because the Rams, they added Devontae Adams. The Seahawks added Marshawn Lynch after he was a wild boy in Buffalo. Like the Patriots added Randy Moss. And again, ain't about AJ Brown alone, but get me winners in the building and figure the rest out later. That's where my
winner. You went full Mike Singletary on that. I'm not mad at you. You just did it though. But
I say it all the time. I say it all the time, and people think I'm be playing. They laugh and they get their kikis off and everything else. But nah, I'm serious. I promise you, I'm like 75% serious. Bring me a guy or two on the roster with at least a misdemeanor and a crazy drive for greatness. I am not disillusioned to believe that these dudes who play a sport that involves running headfirst into another guy over and over need to be saints or perfect locker room leaders. As a supporter of this team,
normal human beings, correct? Yeah,
yeah. As a supporter of this team, I am just arguing for a few guys with a screw loose, and a dog on a leash mentality, so they can kind of balance the room, like your Jalen Carters, your Aziz Al-Shire's tone setters. Like that's what you need. And if that ends up being a wide receiver, I don't care. Like, get me W's.
I mean, what was it? It was Bucky Brooks the other day that mentioned the previous era of the Jags that would bully people. Like, who was that guy on that roster? Would you say, with that group?
I don't know.
Interesting.
I don't know. Like, it's not. We got a running back right now in LaQuint Allen who's a dog. Sure.
No, I don't mean
but
right now. I mean like that old team that Bucky Brooks was mentioning. That like, I don't want to say other players' names because I don't want to bring up Tony Pacelli because
you had the old Jaguars. Then you got a physical run blocking offensive line. Stop there. That's just by itself. That was a great situation for them. Yeah, Tony is a big part of that. But on the defensive side, you had the Henderson. You had the what was it? You had the Stroud and Henderson combination in the inside. You couldn't you can overpower those guys. That was different too. You had a Donovan Darius at safety out there just demolishing and decapitating folks. You have different like iterations of that Jaguars team that was always physical. Like, and that's the point. You need someone who's going to be right at that line, maybe even over the line ever so often, and pay the fines. The point is, you got to be, I get me a few guys with the Mike Peterson. There you go, Robert. Donovan Darius, DD. That's what I'm talking about. Who are your guys? And I'm not saying that they don't have them, but I'm saying that the fact that this is a question is still a conversation, right? Like, you need more of those. And if that's AJ Brown, then so be it for your wide receiver.
Who's the scariest guy on the current Jacksonville Jaguar defense? Is it Trayvon?
Maybe Trayvon. It's got to be. I guess that's got to be it. But he's also a quiet assassin. Like, Trayvon is absolutely. He gets the job done. He comes in and and that's what it's going to be. Yeah, Daryl. That's what he says. Daryl 44.
Okay.
And I don't think it's arguable. But unfortunately, because of the style that he is, and he is quieter, he's not viewed as that way clearly because he's not crazy. If you know what I mean. Like, he doesn't come across that way.
Now here's really to hit the point on who's the one next in line. Is it Foye? Is it Eric Murray?
It don't feel right. It feels like they were just naming guys because we got to name somebody else. But if you want to be honest about the conversation, it don't feel like that's necessarily the case. You know what I mean?
Are not like the Jags of old that Bucky Brooks was evoking on the episode last week.
That's the point. That's the point. And then so
let's get back to the
it's a good conversation for sure.
That was fun, man. I like it.
And then we got to discuss the biggest reason what I would consider against making this trade. And honestly, it's the biggest myth that's in the Jacksonville Jaguars fan base right now. And I've seen debated on the socials basically this entire last season. Like, it's the 2024 Mac Jones theory that Brian Thomas Jr. simply played better with Mac, and that Trevor either throws too hard. Somebody said it earlier. Like, Robert, BTJ just got used to Mac's softballs. That's one of the theories that guys name. They always have these different reasons. Either Trevor's inaccurate in the short area or these other random created reasons. Like, and that was the quote unquote big difference in the 2024 Brian Thomas Jr. versus the one that we've seen either in 2024 with Trevor Lawrence playing or in 2025. And they say that we've never seen the top of the NFL wide receiver Brian Thomas Jr. with Trevor Lawrence. And I look back at the numbers and I don't know if that I wanted to see something. So this is what we got. These are Brian Thomas Jr.'s numbers with Mac Jones in those what is it, like 8-9 games back in the 2024 season. He basically averaged 7 catches on 10 targets for 86 yards, 0.6 touchdowns, a 13.1 yards per catch, and a 65% catch rate. I need you to see this and remember those numbers. Seven catches on 10 targets, 86 yards, 0.6 touchdowns, 13.1 per reception. Trevor Lawrence with Brian Thomas Jr. in 2024 and Trevor Lawrence with Brian Thomas Jr. in 2025. In 2024, Trevor Lawrence and Brian Thomas Jr. averaged 4 catches on 6 targets for 66 yards, 18.3 yards per catch, 66% catch rate, 0.6 touchdowns. So we're saying the same catch rate, the same touchdown rate, basically, lot less targets. We're talking 4 less targets per game. And Trevor Lawrence was actually targeting him farther down the field because his yards per catch was 5 yards longer with Trevor Lawrence. And it dropped off a cliff even more in 2025 under this complex Liam Cohen offense, where BTJ also did struggle with drops. So that's the other piece of that equation too. All right. So that's I want to just give those 2 comparisons, right? Obviously, Matt Jones, he's peppering Brian Thomas Jr. in those games. Again, four more targets per game.
Like, because who else did they have too? But go ahead.
Exactly. That's it. Was Kristen Kirk getting hurt late in that season also? So, like, the fan base narrative that BTJ was quote unquote created by Matt Jones, it feels almost identical to the arguments that Nico Collins was created by CJ Stroud. I'm like, wait a minute. There are in my group chats, both of them, my group chats, they call CJ Stroud a Nico Collins merchant. And that's basically what I felt about with Matt Jones and BTJ back in that 2024 season. Like, they were a struggling offense. They had Matt Jones. That was his target vacuum. He had no other options. And Jones was just targeting him closer to the line of scrimmage a lot more. Someone else earlier said, get back to the slants and the deep balls. And I'm like,
those are all over the comments. Yeah, if you're looking for one person, dude, they're all pointing out the slant routes from Jones, as well as more of the long balls from Jones as well, which again, a rainbow soft pass like we're talking about, right?
Yeah, so it's kind of true, like that similarity, I would say. But we're seeing that the difference between Trevor Lawrence, the 2024 and 2025, like Trevor Lawrence versus the Matt Jones, they're essentially the same. Just one guy's given to do way more targets. But Brian Thomas was his best for Matt Jones whenever he could be peppered often and all the dang time. Mm-hmm. Whereas in this Liam Cohen system, to be peppered early and often, you have to be able to run the option routes that they run. If you can't run the option routes, you can't get the targets. If that makes sense. Like, that's the problem right now.
There's 2 ways to get peppered, and you mentioned the other one is to open it up by a distraction or a focus on another part of the field. 100%. The other way you could get peppered like this is if the defense isn't keying you. But BTJ at this point in time will always get that attention. So I like where you're going, that the key to BTJ's success is now, in fact, this past draft class that was specifically designed to upgrade the run game. I love how you're tying all this together.
Well, will Brian Thomas Jr. ever be able to hit those 2024 Matt Jones ceilings without first mastering the ability to run the option routes? That's the question. If you can't do it, and I don't know that he will or won't. I'm not going to pretend to know at this point. If he can't do it, will he be able to ever get to what we thought he was as far as that number 1 receiver? And so if you want to just look at these things side by side, if on a 17-game cycle, like in 2024, they were using Brian Thomas Jr. like Jamar Chase. And I don't mean that as like a metaphor. Like, Jamar Chase in 2025 led the NFL in 185 targets. With Matt Jones, Brian Thomas Jr. would have been averaging around 170 targets in 2024 if he started the entire season. That would have been 3rd in the NFL last year. So, like, when playing with Trevor in 2024 and with 2025, he's on pace both seasons to get around 100 targets. So that would have been around Deebo Samuel level, like 38th in the NFL last year. So we are talking a different level of what this would have been, or what the kind of receiver this would have been. Because again, people were having the dreams of Brian Thomas Jr. becoming Jettas, becoming Chase, becoming these guys. And now we're having a totally different conversation in 2025, 2026 about, all right, can we just get him up to a level of being a wide receiver 1? Like, these are different conversations, and that kind of deserves to be highlighted, I guess.
I don't know what to add to that, man. The plane is
you're fine, but assume for a second. Just walk with me. Pretend for a second that this coaching staff decides that Brian Thomas Jr. is simply not going to be able to be Puka. He's not going to be able to be Cooper Kupp or have that type of skill set, like running those option routes and catching the ball consistently across the middle of the field, contested and all of this. Then that when you're looking at wide receivers who get that many targets with, that 2025 yardage total and so few touchdowns, because he only had 3, like that's the average that we were looking at, right? 3 touchdowns in 2025 is what Brian Thomas Jr. would have averaged. Then you're looking at the NFL comps to guys like Trey Tucker, Rashid Shaheed, maybe DK Metcalf, on the high end. Like if Liam Cohen or James Gladstone thought that there was a chance that they only see minimal improvement from Brian Thomas Jr. with those limitations on what routes he can run, then there's a race against the clock not to let Rourke get out around the league, right? Like that's going to further diminish his trade value. So there's legitimately a running clock to this year's trade deadline to make that deal where you can likely still get a first or second round pick for him. So from that perspective, when people say like there's no way, I'm just like, I mean, I don't know about no way. It's unlikely, but you need to see some progress from him. Otherwise, I think there is a race to that clock. I don't think that's actually untrue.
Well, right. And the other thing about it, too, is the need for a taker in the other end of the deal, right? If a team is willing to throw a 1, the Ted DiBiase defense is in full effect, right? Everybody's got a price. So you can't rule it out. But let's be honest. I don't see a team that would offer a 1 at this point for Brian Thomas Jr.
It would need to be a team that runs a lot of ISO routes, a team that needs a vertical threat. Then they run a lot of sideline routes. Like, I don't know, the Philadelphia Eagles. It's weird. Or let's say the Green Bay Packers are another team that does it religiously, and the Buffalo Bills. These are 3 teams who religiously keep their routes outside of the hashes. There are teams who like that's their base offense, and they will be happy to have a kind of guy like that. This is just not one of those teams, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and that Sean McVay offense when all the other iterations of it around the league. So you saw the stats, like in 2025 compared to 2024 games with Trevor Lawrence, he averaged half his 2024 TD rate. He averaged 3 less yards per catch. He had a 13% lower catch rate. A lot of that being the drops and things of that nature, and having a lot more drops around the line of scrimmage. So my primary question for this offseason to Washington camp is going to be, is he going to be able to kind of force defenders to creep up by consistently catching those shorter passes in this offense without those drops? Because if you don't, then they'll never feel like they're threatened by you, and then you will just be able to have a safety shaded or soft coverage, and there won't be any threat for Brian Thomas Jr. to truly do more in this offense than be a clear out guy.
Well, and that's the thing from the perspective of the O-line, from the O-lineman on the show. I want guys stepping back, okay, and BTJ having that presence still has plenty of value, right? I'm not saying he's Deshaun Jackson, but if you got somebody where the safety is sitting back just because, they're worried about him being down the field like that, it's one less dude in the box.
Well, it's one less dude in the box, but if it's just a cornerback that's over the top, they ain't doing nothing.
Well, I'm saying a safety in particular, not a corner.
Well, if it's a safety, that's Buffalo Bills just did that against Jaguars in the playoffs for most of the third down conversions. That didn't change much. Like, I'm just going to call a spade. Like, you still have to have that other threat on the opposite side to keep them with 2 high safety looks.
Hold on. The pushback is you and Jordan went to war with this, and I had a hell of a time watching popcorn, watching you two going at it. The reason why that defense isn't viable is because the Bills were never tested deep to pay for that. That's not the same.
Well, so you're saying that's not Brian Thomas Jr.'s fault that they never tested sending someone
Correct.
else?
So if they had tested him and were successful, that threat would be back in effect. That's what I'm saying.
Maybe, but then you can't say it's a Brian Thomas Jr. effect. It's just the offense.
I'm not saying that is right. You transition to the Bills game. I'm saying that example.
I got you.
Whole, right? Nothing you said was incorrect. I just don't think it applies here. But yeah, on paper, listen, the whole beautiful thing I still want to come out one day is BTJ, Travis Hunter. We won't have De'Ami Brown anymore out there.
All go. Send them on all goes, right?
For my all goes, man. Hell yeah. And then one time they're going to do it, and there'll be a food you screen to the outside to 2, and then I'm going to, as the offensive lineman, I'm going to be down the field running to screen and block dudes all day. It'll be great. Anyways, let a man dream.
All right. Yeah, no, get your dream on, bro. And there is a lot of, but also just to approach the last comment from the fan base again. I track these things. I try to make sure we're talking about what you guys are talking about. And there's a lot of people who's like kind of says this offense does not have a number one wide receiver who has to get all the targets, like the way that they scheme it up.
9-route rally.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's not bad. That's not bad. So a lot of people they'll say that this offense doesn't have to have a number one wide receiver who gets all the targets, and I'm just like, nah, bro. Tell that to the Rams. Like Puka Nacua was 4th in the league last year with 166 targets in 16 games played. So like if he would have played the last game, he would have been probably like 2nd in the league. Yeah, that says that you can have a number one target guy in this offense for the right guy. It's the question of, are you the right guy? Like it's that whole what's the mantra? You got to block to get the rock.
No
and
block,
you got to
no
tag.
rock.
Yeah, no block, no rock. You gotta sack. You gotta stop the run to get to sack the quarterback. Well, in this offense, BT has to be able to run the inside routes to catch through the contact if he's going to get those deep ball opportunities and those high target numbers. Like that is the rule. I didn't make it. That is literally how they feel about this offensive, like the build, the make of it. So I don't know if he's going to be able to do it, but that's the question, because at this current moment in time, there's no real evidence to say he's going to be able to do it. And there's some concern, I would say, that he may or may not. So like at that point, the question is BTJ going to be the right guy, or is he going to just continue being an outside clear out guy at the X spot in the mold of many former Rams wide receivers who had fine seasons? I want to be clear. I'm not saying BTJ is not going to be good. I'm simply saying he may not be the number one guy that we were talking about, a top 10, top 15 wide receiver in the NFL. Like the Rams had multiple guys play that role, like Brandon Cooks, Van Jefferson, Tutu Atwell.
Yep.
They were fine. They just weren't what we were talking about entering that 2025 season for Brian Thomas Jr. Like if he's going to just be those guys, that's a different conversation. And I think we can be honest and say that like that's not the guy you would be in the streets saying you can't trade. That's my underlying point. Is if he's Brandon Cooks, Van Jefferson, Tutu Atwell, no one's slamming the table saying no, he has to stay on the roster. Now y'all just like, nah, do what's best for the team. That's a different conversation. I think we got to say that.
Well, that's I don't know that BTJ has entered the Brandon Cooks portion of his career yet, such as your
I'm talking early. I'm talking about Brandon Cooks with the Rams specifically.
Exactly. For all the stuff we're saying, I want to be clear. We're not indicting Brian Thomas Jr. as a player.
Correct.
I think there is a world where he has a particularly lengthy and successful NFL career. Who knows? He may catch on somewhere like Odell Beckham Jr. did one day and win a Super Bowl with the Rams, right? That could be a thing. Yeah. Who knows, right? I hate to keep bringing up the Rams, right? But I think the BTJ is still trying to figure out what he is just as much as the Jags are. That's what I think it is.
Yeah, and if he's going to be more than those guys I just mentioned, then he's got to be a little bit more versatile, or they may as well trade him. Like if you can get something for him, but in the meantime, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, this is why I hate the term number one receiver. Literally every team in the NFL is a number one wide receiver, right? Christian Kirk was a number one wide receiver, but we wouldn't dub him such, right? He was just the top receiver on a roster. This is no shade. This is a Christian Kirk friendly podcast. Another guy, by the way, who had a record-breaking season with Trevor Lawrence. But you want an elite receiver, and we don't know if BTJ is that yet.
That's it, and that's the question. I mean, we've seen those traits, and we've seen the performance that indicates that he absolutely should and maybe even could be. But in this offense, we got questions because there's a staple that kind of has to be ran, and we don't know if he can run it. That's what it comes down to. So would I do it? Would I do it? I mean, it depends on how you feel, because like that's what Josh Hines out, and that's what they're saying. Complacency is not in our building. So then you have to ask the question of, well, is this a complacent move to say, all right, we're going to just be aggressive and go and get this guy, or we're going to just depend on this guy to develop and grow and be better? Which you can make the argument that either move is technically being aggressive. One is being aggressive and aggressively believing in our guy, and the other thing is being aggressive and going to get the guy that you want because you just want to be a Super Bowl team in a Super Bowl window. I get it. Go ahead.
Also, It's aggressively using what might be Trent Baalke's best draft pick. I said might be Trent Baalke's best draft pick to help the team exercise his fiscal sins, because that to me is the main hurdle in getting AJ Brown is the cash.
It's the cash, yeah, the salaries. But would I do it? Would I trade BTJ for AJ Brown? Like, even in the 1-to-1 trade, it's hard to say that's a good deal for Jacksonville. Like, let's be honest. But when there are
Bill Winkle on that, hell to the no, but you know.
I mean, hell to the no feels strong, but it feels a little strong. But because when there are trades for an all-pro talent, when are they ever like a good deal? Let's be real. Like, they're never a good deal. It's just at that point, it's about, hey, I'm going all in on this being a Super Bowl window. Get me a ship, and if you get me a championship, I'm gonna say it's a great deal. Like, forget that. I'm be honest about that.
Hey, listen, I maintain, even though a lot of weirdos out there don't, I maintain that the trade for Travis Hunter was a good deal.
Oh, I don't think I consider it a good deal, but if he's the guy you think he is, then it's a great deal. Like, it doesn't matter the cost, and that's kind of how I land on all these guys who you're trading for a top talent. Like, so that's kind of why I feel the way I feel. But it's ridiculous to say that.
What you mean is an air quote fair deal, and I follow where you're going.
Fair, yeah. Because I'm saying, like, I'll be like, oh yeah, that's a great deal for Jacksonville. We didn't pay too much, and we got the guy we wanted. Like, that's not going to happen if you're talking about getting an all-pro talent. It's just not. But you can't say that this deal doesn't have major upside on the Brown side. Like, you can still say that while acknowledging that holding on to BTJ also does carry major risk on its own.
Both sides can win a trade, and this, to your point, could also be risk. And then I've seen it a few times, but I'm going to lift it here in the comments because I've seen it enough times that it's about time we point to it. And I keep, there we go. M. Darrell in the comments, Denver respected him as a number one, so they kept Surtain on him most of that game. And Parker had a field day, right? What BTJ represents opening stuff up. We mentioned it in the run, but other pass catchers as well. The field spacing in general is the thing.
I don't think that comment's true.
Okay.
I'm being real. Like, in that Denver game, they flipped up who was the primary in coverage frequently, to the point where I'm not sure that I would need to look at the numbers again to confirm like how much Surtain was on BTJ versus Surtain being on Parker versus being on Jacoby, because they flipped that up frequently.
Yeah, don't get too caught up in the example itself. But the concept is having a BTJ does open up spacing for the rest of the field, whether Denver tried to address it a certain way. Yeah.
Right, facts, but again, the details matter. And again, if you're going to use that as the example, then I need to know that example is accurate.
You're saying the example could be verified as far as the details, right? But I'm saying there's an overall general concept that BTJ is satisfied. But I think the key to landing that plane is catching the football. If he catches the football better, that threat is real. I agree.
Fair. No, you're 110% right. So at the end of the day, would I do it? No. Can I acknowledge? Yeah. Can I acknowledge that there are sides to both of these arguments? Yes. And that's my overall point in having these conversations. I'm never going to tell someone that you're 110% wrong, because that's how you get surprised when trades do happen. Mm-hmm. And you have to go back and be like, so what did you see? No, I just evaluated both sides. So we wanted to give you guys both sides to the argument. And even if you ended this podcast saying I disagree and they shouldn't trade him, cool. Wait, I just said they shouldn't trade him too. We all three, I think, of us agree that they shouldn't trade him. We are in agreement, but I want you to have all the facts. So if it ever were to happen that he were to get traded elsewhere or whatever, then at least you know, well, there were some signs, there was some smoke, there was some things that need to be working on.
Yeah, exactly. There's a path to where this world exists. It's not so far off, right? You know,
that's what we at, man. So at the end of the day, I think we're in a good spot. Like, and Social Alchemy says rookie contract, nothing more to say. I mean, other than the last hour and 4 minutes, nothing more to say. Right. I think we generally are in agreement.
You know what though? I really hope, and I mean this deep down, I really hope that Tony Pacelli and Jimmy Stones are having conversations just like this that you and I had with the Duval divers, because what that means for a fact is they're having a damn fine time doing it, and if they stay successful, they'll keep doing the job. That at the end of the day is what we're looking for, right, folks? So yeah, other than that hour and 5 minutes we're about to, that was great. I appreciate you, Alki, for doing that too. I appreciate you with the comment and being a good sport with that. That was funny. But yeah, we're over an hour. Let's let these people get back to their barbecues and good times. Travis, tell me where you can be found, my man.
Man, bigcatcountry.com. Hey, please click on any article that is written on the site. I don't care if it's by Gus Lowe, if it's by Dylan, SI, whoever it may be. Click on, hey, support the site, support local journalism. And that sounds really weird coming from me because. But yeah, support your local Jacksonville Jaguars on the ground coverage, like point blank period. There, let's start there. It's Duval versus everybody else. It's Duval versus all y'all. So that we support all these guys in the written and the audio landscape for supporting the Jacksonville Jaguars and putting out great content there. But for me, it's BigCatCountry.com. For me, it's Travis D. Holmes on all the socials, and for us, it is the DuvalDive on X. It is the DuvalDive on TikTok, and please support us by clicking that like button, following us on all the socials, rating and reviewing us, and then maybe even think about becoming a channel member because, you guys get access to all the pre-recorded podcasts. Even like we're going to be recording a podcast maybe later today. You'll get that a few days early if you were to become a channel member. So just contemplate that. But let them know where you can be found, brother.
First of all, the thing we got to remind them: go to Big Cat Country. And if you can't read, have your local librarian reach out.
Amen.
Cat Country article.
Amen.
Of course,
enemies necessary.
Of course, I am Kyle Nass, the Student of the Game. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as the Student of the Game. Check out my writings on UCF Night Zone and also on Locked On UCF, talking all things UCF football and basketball. I had a very interesting conversation about recruiting with Mike Giddens the other day. Make sure you check that out if you're following UCF. Also, my work covering the Orlando Storm, the playoff bound, the top team in the league right now, Orlando Storm, heading into next week's final week of the year. Make sure you check out me and BP talking all that up as well. Working on, we're not confirming it, but we will have a player on once again this week as well. I don't know who yet. So with all that being said, make sure you check out the Storm Surge podcast, and we introduce to you who our correspondent's going to be in DC the last week. That's right. The Storm Surge podcast is working on being in effect. It won't be me, but it'll be somebody up there in DC. So make sure you check that out Friday morning as well. And then I cover the Magic when they're still around and relevant, but y'all are watching the Knicks, and that's okay. So for my personal champion, Travis D. Holmes, for each and every one of you divers swimming in the comments, it's a beautiful thing. And of course, absolute cinema. Perfect, Travis. It is. See, this is the thing. I need to start popping corn, not just for you and Jordan DeLugo, who was on earlier this week, or Bucky Brooks, or AJ or JP Acosta. AJ Brown, JP
recently
Acosta.
Engaged JP Acosta. I add you. Congratulations to my guy.
Oh, that's right. And then Emery Hunt, Jordan DeLugo, we had a great time, and we are continuing to have a great time this off season. So thanks to all of you for helping your part in making all of that happen. But until next time, everyone, class dismissed.